At this moment of pride and privilege, let me invite the privilege of inviting Academy's backbone and inspiration, Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, Chairman, Ict Academy of Tamilnadu, to deliver the theme address. Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, Chairman, Ict Academy of Tamilnadu.
Everyone, nice to be here once again in front of so many of you academicians and people from the industry. Let me add my welcome to all of you for this day-long conference. And thank you to Nandini and to Mr. Manikam for those inspiring words, defining entrepreneurship, and then asking us to be brave, dream, and go do it, which is what this conference is all about. I want to touch upon the innovation and the entrepreneurship that's going on in the technology industry, and how technology industry has become part of every industry, and how science and mathematics has become part of every industry, every known science, including biology, genetics, etc., and all the type of opportunities that it throws up for young minds that we are creating. But before I get into it, I just do want to add, probably spend 4 or 5 minutes on the activities of ICT Academy, which many of you, I'm sure, are aware of through the various communication channels that the ICT Academy has opened up and through conferences like this. But all the same, I want to talk a little bit about the strategic direction that the Academy is taking. The original intent of Academy was to encourage learning among the faculty in engineering colleges in the state of Tamil Nadu, and thereby imbibe a culture of learning among the students and enable them to compete with the best wherever they are and find a position, a good position, a growing position in the industry. That was the original intent. I think ICT Academy has made a good, significant progress on that particular aspect. And there are two things that we monitor to measure the results or the impact that we have created that I'd like to share. First and foremost, I've shared this with you in the earlier years conference also, where engineering and other graduates from the state of Tamil Nadu are getting a greater proportion of jobs available in the industry throughout India. Okay, clear indication that the graduates that we produce in the state are better suited, deliver quality, strive for excellence in whatever job that they take, whether they take it in Tamil Nadu or outside Tamil Nadu, and increasingly we are taking more and more share of jobs outside Tamil Nadu, which is an encouraging sign, and ICT Academy has played a role in it. And the second aspect, which is bothering us about 3 or 4 years back, which no longer worries us as much, is something that Dr. Manikam referred to, about the opportunity that's available to students from Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. The cities are Tier 2 and 3, the colleges are not. Unfortunately, the colleges being located in those Tier 2 and 3 cities get clubbed with the city itself, which itself is a misnomer. Many of these colleges are located in remote places, which is a great thing because it provides opportunities for all the people in the inner cities and rural areas to have access to quality education. What we tried to do was to encourage the colleges and the students to learn and to be able to compete with the best in the industry, best of the students coming out of other colleges through the training programs that are offered, be it in the area of soft skills, in the areas of employability, in the areas of innovation, in the areas of entrepreneurship. Everything that's available to students in major cities, we said, should be available to students in other parts of the state also. That 50% of the people that are hired at the entry level are coming through off-campus interviews, because the quality of the people is as good as the ones that are hired getting and struggling and fighting for the first day slot in some of the leading campuses. That's another testament to the work that the institutions have done to promote greater learning to promote talent, to promote attitude, etc. among students, and the role that ICT Academy has played in facilitating, catalyzing that kind of a change in all the institutions that are part of the academy here. Encouraged by these two, we started two new programs. One is about entrepreneurship, innovation and entrepreneurship. Just this single motto is, how do we make the students coming out of colleges be creators of jobs rather than seekers of jobs? Right now everybody is seeking a job. Can we turn that around and make them either self-employed, create a job for themselves, and create job for others? That's the whole idea of this entrepreneurship initiative that's happening. And the second one is, we've been touching predominantly students who are in this formal, in the portals of the various colleges. There are a whole lot of other people who need to be touched, some early, some perhaps even in the later stage, in order for us to derive the benefits of the technology change that's happening. Because anyone who is digitally illiterate is going to be left behind. We'll talk a little bit about how important it is to be not necessarily digitally savvy, but at least to understand the implications of technology in our lives, in the various aspects of life that we go through every day. One significant segment that has been left untouched is the government sector itself. Okay. Hundreds and thousands of employees working in the state and the central government. And if you visit the offices, the government offices, I'm sure many of you have visited, and the level of automation, the level of infrastructure, the level of their knowledge about computers, the use of computers, and the use of these communication tools is abysmally low. We launched a program as part of ICT Academy to train people in the government service, to make them, as a first step, digitally literate, and then the subsequent steps would be to be digitally demanding. We want them to demand what technology can provide so that they can do their jobs better, more efficiently, more productively. Really want the government employees to demand of the government, of the various people, stakeholders in the government, to say, my traditional way of working with all these ledgers and books and things is not attractive anymore. I do want to move to a digital platform like the corporates are doing, and I want access to those type of facilities. Start demanding, and that's the only way I think the overall productivity, efficiency in the economy will improve. So that's the first task that we have taken up. We have trained about, I don't know what the exact number is, I'm sure it runs into thousands, where the government funded, encouraged ICT Academy to come into the government sector and train the people in the government, which is good, which, like Dr. Manikam said, still a job in the government sector is very, very attractive. You have a job for life, you get a large pension after retirement. There's a neighbor of mine, he's an entrepreneur, he runs his own shipping company. He constantly keeps complaining about his father-in-law, who is 90 years plus, who to this day is receiving a monthly pension of 50,000 rupees, just sitting at home. Okay. And the son-in-law keeps saying, look at the drain on the economy. I work so hard and create wealth. And there are better ways of redistributing wealth than to give this to this old man who I am taking care of, and he gets this 50,000 rupee pension. But there are some advantages like that of working in the government. But despite that, we do want to encourage them to realize the overall, the broader aspects of economy, broader aspects of pension management, etc., so that they can be responsible citizens in the country and contribute to the growth in other sectors rather than be a drain on the economy. And this, in the last board meeting that we had with the academy, where a number of people participated, including the IT secretary, this is going to be a thrust area for the ICT Academy. And the other one is getting into schools. Encouraging students in schools to learn about technology early, in the 9th, in the 10th grade, +1 and +2, so that the thought process evolves from that stage. thought of applying technology, applying programming. The mission, we called it in a very simple name. We said, every child that comes out of school must know coding. He or she may or may not choose to do programming, do coding in life. That's a different issue. But they should know what coding is, must have tried their hands at it. The reason why it is so important is that technology is engulfing everything. There is this Internet of Things that everybody keeps talking about, where devices, things that we don't imagine get connected. And in order to operate them, in order to understand how they work, in order to use them, get some benefit out of it, you need to know you need to have some understanding of how this technology works, some level of calibration, some level of programming, setting the parameters, etc., etc. If you come out and you don't have that basic knowledge, you're going to be digitally so illiterate that you will be dependent on somebody forever in all your future needs. Okay. I'll give you a small example. There's this Child's Trust Hospital in Chennai, where they treat children with various ailments from the neonatal stage to the first 2-3 years. And whenever a child has a difficulty, let's take a simple thing as a fever, different children react to antibiotics in different manner. They just don't know. Some have violent reactions, adverse reactions, some get well soon, some get overdosed, even though the dosage is not necessarily leaving behind complications for later in life. And now it's possible through genetics to identify through the genetic code what is the appropriate dose of antibiotics that needs to be given to a child. Okay. So you can very precisely calibrate it and give only the right medicine in the right dose in order to get the best effect. Now the doctors need to understand this type of a calibration. They cannot say, I'll give a sample, I want the code, etc. So there is an orientation program that's going on in the hospital for the doctors to understand how technology helps in identifying that genetic code that's responsible for this. It's easy, it's not very expensive. Of course, they don't use it universally. They use it only in select patients who are in the high-risk category. Even then, it's not very expensive. So that level of training, there are some doctors who take to it, primarily the younger doctors who are somewhat technology savvy. But some of the specialists and surgeons who are 70 plus, who are known for their surgical skills, find it difficult to understand it. Difficult to understand how to calibrate, what does this technology bring about, etc. So we do not want any of the children to be in that state in future, because the technology is going to impact them fairly early in their lives. And that's why we have started this campaign. So we'll go out to all the schools and make sure that each school has a program to make the children technically savvy, know a little bit of programming. It doesn't have to be a great programming language, etc. Clearly know what programming is, be in a position to handle devices. That's the second program. And the third one is a broader umbrella ecosystem of the ICT Academy to develop all these programs, the program for the government, the program for academic institutions, and the program for the school children under this technology and innovation and entrepreneurship umbrella, so that that's an opportunity that they don't miss. Okay. That's the goal, big program, and thank you for supporting it all along in the educational institutions. We would like and seek your continued support in going through that particular process. Now, talking about the opportunities in the technology space and how various companies and industries are changing themselves in today's context, I'd like to give just two examples. Two examples many of you will be familiar with in the corporate world. The first one is Philips as a company. Philips as a company has reinvented itself several times over. They were in all kinds of businesses, brought it down. To cut a long story short, the last that we really heard from them was that they were focused on media and entertainment as one vertical, one industry vertical, healthcare systems, all the devices, scanning devices, etc., as the other vertical, industrial automation as the third vertical. And under that, they had various aspects. Under healthcare, they had devices, they had electric toothbrush, they had CT scans and PET scan equipment, they have ECG monitors and so on, a variety of them. Now they realized that it is all-encompassing. There is no way that they can work on each of these industry verticals without the glue of technology, particularly glue of communications and computer technology, bringing all these things together in a very synergistic manner. So they restructured the company once again and just made it two broad divisions. One is about industrial automation, and the other one is just general automation. Both uses technology, industrial automation in terms of making all the capital goods that manufacture everything, mass production of things, completely dependent on mechanical engineering, electronic engineering, all the engineering disciplines in order to build huge plants. And the other one is just automation, sensors, focused exclusively on the new IoT or Internet of Things. One broad example, we'll see where these things come together. That's Philips. Bosch is another company that is doing tremendous amount of work. We have a big setup here in Coimbatore. For those of you who are interested, you should read the Gartner reports on Bosch, how they restructured themselves, how electronics and technology innovation and Internet of Things is so important to the strategic direction that they've chosen now. Bosch, traditionally we say, oh, these are auto components, they are suppliers of modules, components to the auto industry. True, auto industry is one area, but they supply to the aviation industry as well. But now they've taken a position saying that anything that involves computing, analytics, mobility, Bosch wants to be there. Okay. Why? Because all these things are going to impact every automobile that is going to be produced in the future, every aeroplane that's going to be produced in the future, anything that gets involved in the transportation industry will be driven so much by technology that they're also restructuring and saying we do not want these type of divisions, we want to focus exclusively on technology. And a lot of that work that happens in the devices space and the programming of these devices is happening in India or will soon happen in India, because that's a great opportunity that we are looking at. So Philips and Bosch are just two examples of how industry is looking at the future and restructuring themselves. The context of all this is what we call code halos. This is, I'll explain this term, it sounds very, very complicated, but it's not very complex. This is about if you want to, in the future, the consumer behavior, the consumer's requirements, the consumer's expectations, etc., okay? How do we identify that? You cannot go on carrying out market surveys, ask the customer what they want, figure out based on surveys and user experiences what is it that they have to produce. And no one is as smart as Steve Jobs or Apple, where they define what the consumer should use, period. They're kind of the benchmark. They don't believe in market surveys. They don't believe in, what is it that the consumers want. They very confidently and almost arrogantly say that I know what the consumers will be happy using. Here is a product that I produce. Okay? I'm sure there'll be other companies that emerge also. Now, in order to get that kind of an insight, every company is focusing on what is known as an individual code halo. We leave behind so much information on the internet when we interact. We leave behind so much of our fingerprints. When you go into our Facebook, the likes, the people that we interact with, when we tweet a message, our opinion, the area and the spaces that we choose to comment on, the sites that we visit, the tests that we take, the discussions that we participate on the net, the blogs that we write, all that is information that's available about an individual, based on which I can to a great extent say what your likes and dislikes are, what your preferences are, what is the peer group that you want to belong to, what is the peer group that you belong to, and thereby this information is available for all the manufacturers who produce goods and services to specifically target you and say, given this profile, this personality, this is what this individual will be happy with, whether it's entertainment or a product or a device, anything, and the way to reach that person also. I know I have to sell this to Dr. Manikam, but if I go directly and sell, he doesn't usually buy from a salesperson. This is the way to approach. I'll have to approach it through either an industry association or his friend. That entire information is something that companies are beginning to use without any one of us knowing, in a very confidential, private manner, to make an impact on their company, their bottom line, in terms of selling the products, and at the same time, delivering a much superior experience to all of us. Fantastic experience, the same day delivery, the following day delivery, and things of that nature that happen in the e-commerce space are so important, driven by technology. And the point that I want to make in this space is that many of the new innovations that are happening here, this space, are all driven by small companies that started in the last 3 or 4 years. If you look at those of you who are following the IT sector, the IT companies, if you look at the acquisition announcements that have been made by, let's say, the top 10 companies over the last 1 year, there would have been at least 100 announcements that have been made. Either IBM or Accenture or Google. Very, very specific niche type of companies that have a great understanding and access to consumers. People wonder, Google acquires Nest, a thermostat company, or Google acquiring, forget the name of the company which has design capability. Why would Google want to do that? In the broader scheme of things that's happening in the technology space, these small companies that are startups have something of great value that can be put to use by larger corporations far more rapidly than these companies left to themselves. That's a big opportunity, and that's the startup opportunity that I wanted to mention to the students and to the teachers here. So much so that incubating these ideas at a fairly early stage, perhaps even at the school final stage, I'm sure we'll come to it, and then definitely in the colleges, is very, very important to drive technology innovation. I'm sure many of the colleges who are represented here have their own incubation center, which is a great idea. I think Nandini mentioned, what is creativity, what is the execution. I think I've referred to the innovation equation. Innovation equation is innovation equals ideas plus implementation or execution plus benefits. Ideas galore. You have thousands and thousands of ideas. Only a few of them are implementable or executable or get executed well. But some of them are executed very well, but if they don't deliver any benefits to individuals or corporations, it's not an innovation. It fails. So if you follow that pattern, any incubation center that we set up anywhere would be extremely successful, and I would encourage all of you to participate in those type of entrepreneurial programs where there is an opportunity for you to collaborate with industry players or young minds and set up incubation centers in your respective colleges. In fact, the CSR, the 2% mandatory spend on CSR that will come into practice very soon, identifies incubation as an area of activity that's important to entrepreneurship and education, and says that the spend on incubating companies, incubating as part of any entity, whether it's an industry or the academic institution, will be considered or can be considered as part of the 2% spend on higher education. So funding will also be available for many of these incubation activities. That's something that I strongly encourage all the companies to take up if you do not already have one. And the last thought that I want to leave with is, in terms of promoting entrepreneurship, one idea behind ICT Academy going after the school children is, we try and see if some of these young children with bright ideas can take to starting their own companies immediately after school. Okay. Very, very radical type of an idea, very early stages, where we are saying, yes, it's important to have a degree, important to go through an academic institution, etc. But if you're so inclined, so passionate about an idea that you have at the school age, don't worry about going to college. Get started. Okay. Small beginning, but this is the type of encouragement that is required in order to promote small companies that will eventually become big and that will contribute to the innovation that's possible in the space of technology for the benefit of everyone. Now, I talked about the code halos as part of individual. We all have our own likes, dislikes we carry. Like we have a halo around ourselves, every enterprise has a halo. Every academic institution, a college has a halo. The way they operate, the things that they do, the students that they admit, the teachers that they have, the places the students get placed in, the companies that they get placed in, etc. All this footprint is available based on which, without visiting a college, it is possible to paint a picture of an institution, of a college, and it's easy for corporates or companies to decide whether I want to partner with a particular college or not, whether a particular college requires funding, whether I would like to join that college or not. You know, this is a halo that's available around the schools and colleges, halo around the industry. And we believe that the big opportunity in the future is at the intersection of these halos between a student at the college and a student in the industry, etc., etc. So much of this data is available in the analytics space that analysis of all this information that is available is going to create so many opportunities. And just the leading indicator of this is something that I would leave as a last thought for all of you. There is this Chennai Mathematical Institute, an institute that's dedicated to teaching and research in maths and computer science. The demand that they have for the students from that college, they admit about 50 students for an undergraduate program, BSc in maths or BSc in computer science, 3-year fully residential program. Top students go there. For about 140 students, there are 40 PhD students there, totally 140 students. There are about 40 faculty drawn from global universities. And they believe that mathematics is the language of research, whether you do research in genetics or in biology or in engineering or in any form of science. In fact, the last 3 Nobel Prize in economics looked like it was a prize being given to mathematicians rather than economists. And the prize winner, the Nobel Prize winner, said mathematics is the language of research. They're focusing so much on the analytics part of it to get the benefit that we all are looking for in analyzing this code, analyzing this huge amount of data that's available, which will lead to plenty of entrepreneurial opportunities. So just a thought, focus on mathematics education for the children, for the students that come into the colleges, encourage and inspire entrepreneurship among them, set up incubation facilities so that those who are inclined entrepreneurially can participate in this activity, and continue to derive benefit from symposiums like this, from ICT Academy, NASSCOM, CII, various industry body that are waiting to bridge the gap between industry and the academic institutions, technology and industry, technology and academia, etc. And thank you for participating in a large manner in all the activities of ICT Academy so far. Thank you.
I request Mrs. Anusha, CEO, Pod Group, to honor our chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the elaborative and eye-opening theme address.